Psst, join the party. Join us. Join us. Join us. Join us. Psst, join the party. Psst, join the party. Psst, join the party. Psst, join the party. There's room for more. Psst, join the party. Join us. There's room for more. Psst, join the party. Join us. There's room for more. Join us.
Meow. Do not be startled. I am here to guide you as we explore the deepest recesses of your mind. You will build strange and complex worlds using only your imagination and your thumbs. A hypothetical situation missing one key part. Imagine a universe where anything is possible, where A equals B, sugar can be sour, and Beyonce is You're about to split the room. Fill in the blank to complete the scenario. And now, tastes a little gamey. An eccentric billionaire invites you to his island where he hunts humans. Got it, Ireland. The 60-year-old hunter will be armed with a simple club and you will have this. If you can survive for 24 hours, you will get $1 million. Do you go?
Super Split.
The longer it takes the room to answer, the more bonus points you get. Brace yourself for Mom versus SEO. Your mom quits her job to start a lifestyle blog. Unfortunately, she hasn't received much traffic. She asks you to share her site on your social media. Her latest post is titled, "This." Do you share it? Up next is keep one eye open. You are transported back to the moment right before you were conceived. So that means, yeah, if you watch your parents perform the act, you'll be born with the ability to do this. You must watch every second, though. Do you watch? It's time for One Fright Stand. If you get scared, you see ghosts for 4 hours. The spirits don't hurt you, they just do this. After watching a very terrifying horror movie, your date invites you back to their place for coffee. Do you go? This scenario is called the lie reactor. When someone is lying, you involuntarily do this. You just got an invitation to your high school reunion. Do you go? This one is called an itsy bitsy problem. Spiders have become super powerful, rendering most pesticides ineffective. I already hate this question. The only spray that works has a label that says, "Warning, may cause this." Your house is infested. Do you use the spray? Here's where things stand at the moment. It's time to create some more havoc. Hurry up, time's running out. And now, Binge Pipe presents Artistic Compromise. You just sold a screenplay. However, the studio wants to change the title from The Love Hotel to This. Your name will be on the poster. Do you pull out of the contract? feast your eyes on a dead deal. You can bring this person back to life, but by doing so, you have to send this person back to the year 1930. Do you do it? Here's one I like to call Stolen Secrets. You open your front door to discover that right in front of you sits this. If you keep it, you won't get caught, but no one can ever know you have it, so you must enjoy it alone. Do you keep it? Get ready for Couch Confessions. You wake up in a world where this person is your therapist, but they don't recognize you. You're about to discuss this. Do you spill your guts in front of them? Brace yourself for the Ring of Guilt. You spend $200 on a nice ring at a pawn shop. Right outside, you run into an old woman who tells you she had to pawn that ring to buy this. She wants it back. Do you give it to her? Up next is Gutter Thoughts. You get offered $1 million if you can bowl an entire game without throwing a gutter ball. You can't use aids and you have 10 minutes total. If you fail, the punishment will be this. Do you go for it? let's check in with the standings. We've reached the decisive dimension. Everybody will be presented with a new type of scenario. There will be two options to choose from. Door number 1 is already provided. You will decide what's behind door number 2. Remember, you want to make it write an option that you think only some people would choose. Roar. You can get unlimited free movie tickets, provided at some point during the movie you stand up and shout, "I wonder what happens next," or this. Which phrase do you shout? Nice. Well played. Now for something different. You're a lifeguard who hears a cry for help. Two people are drowning. One is an ex who broke up with you. The other is this person. Everybody on the beach is looking at you. Whom do you save? No dice. It all comes down to this.
The local residents familiar with the abandoned building's history know it simply as the Murder Hotel.
Car crashing into another car, and then another car went ahead and crashed.
The infamous hotel.
This is your wake-up call. Prepare to die. Welcome to Trivia Murder Party. There is no social mixer in our hotel ballroom. You've been lured into a murderous game of trivia. Only one of you will survive. And that one survivor better leave this hotel a glowing review online. I will not be screwed over by TripAdvisor again. Alright, first question. Which cereal has a mascot that is spineless? Use your device to answer the question. And the correct answer is... Who got the question right? which leaves only you. Follow me. Welcome to room 101. It's non-smoking. Ah, the lost art of letter writing. I'm going to dictate a message to you. Write down as much of what I say as you can. Everyone else will be typing too. And if anyone does a better job than you, you die. Okay, let me lean back in this chair and get my feet up. And we begin. Dear Safe Haven Security Systems, what would you say is your most common password? I don't want to be unoriginal, so please tell me the series of numbers that is most likely to give me access to my neighbor's home. Time's up. Alright, now let me get out my red pen and give this a once-over. And what's the result? But did anyone do better than you? You were not the best. That's not even close to what I said. Don't worry. Everyone who dies in this hotel turns into a ghost. Keep playing and you just might steal someone else's life force and win the game. Let's keep moving. In the classic comedy routine, who's on first? Who's on third? Who picked this? The rest of you, it's time. Welcome back to the killing room. Pigs! You're going to drop down this board and try to avoid the death zones. Someone needs to pick which slots are death zones. Go ahead, everyone else. Choose a slot to make it no bueno. Hurry along. If someone dies in your death zone, you get a prize. No help, huh? Fine, I'll do it. Okay. Let the games begin. Pick a spot to drop from. This was a lot harder to build than you guessed. They don't call them death zones for nothing. Oh, also, there's an audience in the game. If they survive, you die. Hot tip, you can join the audience at any time. Let's try another one. What does Harry Potter find in the Chamber of Secrets? If you're in the audience, you should answer too. Who picked this? The rest of you who are still alive, come with me. Oh, this one is good. I'm giving each of you a telephone, but I only have 2 phone numbers. Dial one of these numbers on your rotary phone before anyone else, or you die. You know, there was a time where you actually had to remember everyone's phone numbers. It was the worst. Time's almost up. Well, you're about to die, but at least you didn't have to talk to anyone on the phone. We're here. When one player is left alive, we'll go to the final round. Next question. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, when were baby boomers born? Time's almost up. Who picked this? Only a ghost got it wrong. I'll have to kill my writers. Let's keep moving. Oopsie, I might have made a small mistake. What is the half-life of uranium-238? Who picked this? I want to show you something. Let's roll them bones. Roll as much as you want to add to your score. I'll kill the player with the lowest score. But go over 21 and you die instead. And don't forget, if they roll a skull, that adds 1 to everyone's score. It's like blackjack, but with dice and skulls. Well, it made sense when I first put it together, okay? You busted. Thank you for getting blown up. It makes me so happy. Let's try another one. Where was Marco Polo born? Who picked this? Time for consequences. Oh look, it's the loser wheel. Spin it, it's fun. Croupier, I'm putting all my money on death. Ah, that's some bad luck there. My family never liked game shows. They always told me if I didn't want to run the hotel, then I should be a dentist that murders people, or an accountant that murders people. But I always wanted to be a star. Let's keep moving. Which of these is not one of the 4 fundamental forces of flight? Time's running out. Who picked this? Way too easy. Let's try another one. Who was the first to pollute our ear canals with autotune? Who picked this? It's time. I hope you're good with instructions. Follow as many rules as you can before time runs out. Everyone else is playing too. If any of them correctly follow more rules than you, I will kill you. The rules are already on your device. Go, go! This game is really good for your cognitive skills. You know, if you survive. Almost out of rules time. What the heck? Let's keep moving. Which of these book sequels is not real? Almost out of time. Who picked this? Well, that sucks. You know, my dad had the strict rule about not letting a killing spree overstay its welcome, so let's make this a little bit more cutthroat. Okay, this is a game where only one person can survive, so I hope you don't mind a little water. Only one of these keys will open the lock to your tank. So many I always mix up my keys at home too. Ugh, so annoying. Try again. This would be a good time for an awesome key pun. Maybe next time. Glad to see you're the one to make it here alive, but will you be the one to escape? I'm going to give you a category. The French mother sauces. Tap each answer that fits the category. Let's see the right answers. You advance 1 space for every correct answer. You're a little bit closer to escaping. Oh wait, did you think it was going to be just you? Aw, that's cute. If a ghost catches you, they'll steal your life force. Then they can try to escape and win the game. Here's everyone's next question. And they get a third chance to help them catch up to you. Time is almost up. Cruciferous vegetables. The ghosts are catching up. Golf clubs. You're better than I thought. Don't look behind you. It's only darkness. Beatles songs. Time is almost up. Don't look back because there's a ghost right there. Venomous animals. The tables have turned. Movies about time travel. Enjoy oblivion in the darkness. Mascots older than Ronald McDonald. Time is almost up. Another life force swap. This will slow you down. If you want to break through that barrier, you'll need to ace this next question. And if you're still alive and want to break through, you have to get all 3 answer choices right. You have to get all the right answers to escape. Hey, it's Trivia Murder Party! You know, usually I try to track down past players and their descendants for this game, but just to mix it up, I've abducted you. How lucky, right? First question. Which of these is like a real term for a part of a saxophone? Use your device to answer the question. Time's running out. And the correct answer is... Who got the question right? The rest of you, I want to show you something. Welcome to Room 101. It's tattoo time! Give me a new tattoo by drawing on your device. Oh. 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 Ow. Ah. Ooh. Ooh. Oh. Nothing? Time for consequences. Let's try another one. Which of these is not an official level of security clearance granted by the United States federal government? Time's almost up. Who picked this? The rest of you who are still alive, follow me. Welcome to Room 217. Let's use one of my cousin Aloysius's old stage props. Pick a space inside the box to hide. Some spots are better than others, but don't overthink it. Choose now or... Now I'm gonna need some volunteers. Volunteers get one sword. On your device, choose a row or a column to run your sword through. Sword is a weird sounding word, right? Swords. 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 Oh, come on. If you don't pick a row or column, I'll do it for you. What the heck, guys? I gave out more swords than this. Ugh, whatever. Say, entrails. Yes! Let's keep moving. In the Myers-Briggs type indicator, what does P stand for? Who picked this? Come with me. Oh good, it's my money pile. There's a very expensive needle in there somewhere. Go ahead and take as much money as you want. But take the most money or the least money, and you'll be sorry. Enjoy the mind games. Okay, who took what? The most and least greedy really messed up. We're here. When one player is left alive, we'll go to the final round. Next question. What was the first food eaten in space? Time's running out. Who picked this? Time for consequences. You know what? I just want to play Quiplash. I wish the rest of that party pack was as good. The game will send a funny writing prompt to your devices. Enter the best answer you can think of and hit send. I gave this one a longer than usual timer because everyone loves waiting through longer than usual timers. Enter something hilarious now. Let's see the funny ha-has.
If the bellboy holds out their hand, they don't want a tip. They really want blank.
Trying to ruin my fun party vibe, huh? Boo. Let's try another one. In Norse mythology, what will happen during Ragnarok? Almost out of time. Who picked this? Only a ghost got it wrong. Well, that's no fun. Let's keep moving. Who is Lisa Gherardini? Time's almost up. Who picked this? It's time. Let's see who has ESP. Type in an answer that fits this category. Everyone else will answer too. And if anyone matches you, you die. Write your answers now. Answer time is coming to an end. Now, let's see if there are any matches. No matches, but I wanted to believe. I'm starting to second guess the whole put the word not in front of your name and pretend you're a different person joke. I'm not sure if it makes sense. Oh well, you gotta try things out sometimes. Let's try another one. What does it mean when something is described as potable? Time's running out. Who picked this? Follow me. Let's see if the safe players are good at forgery. Oh, hey, look! The ghost of my Aunt Mildred is writing on this mirror. She has her own consistent handwriting. Now, Aunt Mildred is going to write a different word. But so will all the safe players. Draw a word on the mirror to camouflage Aunt Mildred's. Let the drawing begin. Watch closely. One of these new words will be a word written by Aunt Mildred's ghost. So many convincing words to choose from. Now, type the word that Aunt Mildred wrote, or you die. Would the real Aunt Mildred please stand up? Aw, you got it. This is my second most disappointing experience with a mirror. Let's keep moving. Oh boy. What year was Kylie Jenner born? Almost out of time. Who picked this? I want to show you something. I'm giving you the laziest gift of all, a scratch ticket. Scratch and find $3 to live. And if you keep scratching, I'll give you cash for all the extra $signs you find. But if you scratch off even one skull, you die. Start scratching. . It might be fun to press your luck. The contest is almost over. Ugh, lame. I know I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up that a scratch ticket would kill someone, but what can I say? I'm a hopeless optimist. You'd think ghosts would just fall through the bottom of an elevator when it goes up, but I guess ghost rules don't make any sense. Let's try another one. What iconic move does Elwood's teach the beauty parlor in Legally Blonde? Time's almost up. Who picked this? Follow me. Ah, the spirit of giving. You each get $500. Give some of that money to your friend. The person who ends up with the most money will die. But there's a catch. If one of you ends up with $800 or more, I'll kill the other one instead. Begin. Time for a credit check. On their deathbed, no one says, "At least I made a bunch of money." Except you, I guess. Only one of you is still alive. You know what that means. Congrats on making it here alive. But can you escape? Here's your first category. Celebrity perfumes. Tap each answer that fits the category and then press submit. Let's see the right answers. Stage names. Time is almost up. I don't know if you can outrun those ghosts. One-term U.S. presidents. Next question. Chicken breeds. Don't fall behind. Here comes the darkness. Lunchables. Time is almost up. won't be forgotten, whoever you were. Metric system units of measurement. The end is near, but in a good way. Metamorphic rocks. Let's just call that a fluke. The darkness approaches. Where do you think you're going? You need a perfect answer for your final escape. And that includes the third answer choice now, too. Time is almost up.
Darkened highway, late at night. I can't keep driving, it don't feel right. I take the exit, just looking for a place to stay. There's only moonlight, the sky is black. I'm really lost, but I can't turn back. What's that ahead? A hotel with a vacancy. Do I check in? Will I check out? There's no one near to hear me shout. Trivia at a party, and I'm filled with dread. If I can't answer these questions, I'm gonna wake up dead. Trivia at a party in this murder hotel. I thought this was a vacation, but it's a trip to hell. I find my room and I try to sleep. I say a prayer, my soul to keep. Next thing I know, the phone rings with a wake-up call. Why'd I check in? Will I check out? There's no one near to hear me shout. Trivia at a party, and I feel with dread.
Pointing yet,
He's,
so I
he's
think
gonna
we're
point when they
okay.
can see us. So I'm just talking out loud. Is that a point at me? Oh, it is.
It is a point.
It is a point. It
at
wasn't
you.
like a and we're go, but it was like a.
It was a very polite,
It was.
like,
It was a very polite point.
hi friends.
Hello.
We're in Lincoln, New Hampshire. That's our excuse for our internet connection, in case it's terrible.
And the lighting.
And yeah, we're in a hotel. We're in a very cheap hotel.
Hey,
No, cheap is good.
it's not like that cheap actually. It's what is available when you decide the week before to go tubing down the Penny in
like
the middle of summer.
maybe it's just the carpenter in me, But I noticed that all the railings outside, because we're on like the top floor, are all made out of 2x4s, which is just like the absolute cheapest way to anyway. I was like, oh, someone made some decisions here, did not spend
Anyways,
money.
Hello from our cheap hotel room in Lincoln, New Hampshire. We spent the day tubing down the Pemigewasset River, and it literally took all day.
Because the river is, as they say, low and slow. It was still amazing. Like, it's such a good time. But like, we actually had to paddle to
By the
like
end
get
of
to the
it,
end. We were like, we
it's-
gotta do Quarantinapalooza.
It's like you actually have to like propel yourself because there were times when the wind would just be blowing against you and you were like, ah.
We have to figure out, like, there's gonna be a perfect time to float down the Pemi River, and it's like a certain number of days after it's rained upstream so that it goes a lot faster, but it's not too soon after it rains so that the water's still warm. I don't know. We haven't figured it out. There's probably an algorithm.
Yeah. Yes, we'll have to check the Pemi algorithm.
But we had a wonderful time. We're with Dave and we're with Kim. They're both out doing other things, getting food and stuff like that. We saw lots of fish, which is great.
I saw I saw some fish.
Yeah.
I saw some little.
I saw so
minnows.
many because I had goggles because he forced me to buy goggles, and I am loving the goggle life. Yeah, and the snorkel, like that. I could just like float down the river and see the little
He looks
fish
very cute.
swimming up to my goggles and being like, hello. And I'm like, hello, little fish. I didn't know you were here.
I think there was some reluctance in you buying some like snorkel equipment, but like I knew it was a good investment.
It's not cheap. But you were like, no, you need this, and you are absolutely correct. I needed that. Like the snorkel life it's perfect.
It's the life for you.
Yeah, just like looking at fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we've been today.
If we seem like like we've just been baking in the sun for multiple hours. Also,
It's lovely.
we've been
but
drinking
exhausting.
since noon.
That's because this is because we're on the 21st, right?
Yeah. Well, no, but all the stuff said it was the 22nd episode because we don't do numbers. Yeah. So this is the 21st.
That's the
episode.
joke of it. I was seeing who was paying attention.
And it was like drinking while doing a lot of exercise, and so like we just basically were tired. But hi, it's lovely to see you.
Hi, we're here to
I'm glad
entertain
you're
you
all
and just
here.
complain about our just exhausting day sitting on a tube
Our
in a
exhausting,
river.
beautiful day with friends on a beautiful river in New Hampshire.
Yes.
You know what I love?
What do you love?
That this show just started without us because Daniel was here.
I know.
And a bunch of awesome people were here, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to play games and wait for them to show up to their own damn show.
So I do have the show pulled up on the phone. However, we do not have very fantastic Wi-Fi. So I
see
can't
chat at all?
I can see chat. Yeah.
Okay. Hello.
I'm using hand of the chat.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. I'm sorry. I'll gesture on your phone.
Yeah.
The bread is here. Wolf Lover's here. Karate show. You know what? This is a party. This
I
is good.
believe it was the Brett who is the reason for the season, why we named today's episode what we did.
It's sort of fun
It's
to
sort of
watch.
fun to watch.
Was that a comment from?
No, it's kind of fun to watch. I
Kind
think
of fun
that
to
was
watch.
Brett that said that last.
It's like, okay.
Last week or week before. Anyways, we do appreciate that. There are plans afoot that Kim was going to play some music, but she is indisposed at the moment, so we're just sort of
She's on a
flying by our
business
pants.
call. Yeah. So why don't you play some music?
So I'm going to play some music. You're going to sing with me some stuff.
Oh, we have Matthew and
then-
Lisa coming up later in the show. We're going to
Mhm.
chat with some physicists, which I am excited for and totally prepared for. Nope.
Kim is prepared for it,
But she's
now
on a
that
business
she
call.
left.
Yeah. So we're like, meh. But you know what? It's fun. It's going to be fun.
Okay, yes. Okay. I'll do some stuff.
Yeah.
I've
play
got some
music.
nautical-y stuff to play.
Oh.
What?
Can you also play... I requested In the Shallows. Can you also play Whalers and Sailors?
I got that pulled up.
Okay. Yeah,
Baby.
Okay. I'm going to get out of your way, and I'm going to drink beer on that side of the hotel room, so
Okay.
I'm off camera.
And you're gonna sing a song with me.
Yeah.
only if it's sunny outside. Yeah. I will not join you in the shallows. It's like under 80 degrees. Definitely not. All right. Continue on with our watery theme. I've been staring at the edge of the water long as I can remember, never really knowing why. I wish I could be the perfect daughter, but I come back to the water no matter how hard I try. Every turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every road leads back to the place I know where I cannot go, though I long to be. See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind and the sail and the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go. And I know everybody on this island seems so happy on this island. Everything is by design. I know everybody on this island has a role on this island, so maybe I can roll with mine. I could lead with pride, I could make us strong. I'll be satisfied if I play along with the voice inside, sings a different song. What is wrong with me? See the light where the shine meets the sea, it's blinding, and no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me. Let me know what's beyond that line. Will I cross that line? See the sky meets the sea. It calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind and my sail on the sea stays behind me, day I'll know how far I'll go. It's from Moana. That's the name of the song. It's like, it's from Hamilton. No. Written by the same guy, though. All right, I'm going to do another song, and then Michael's going to join me for a duet.
Karate Joe's requesting Lifetime.
Okay. I had a...
Oh, is that a thing?
Is that it? We'll see.
Apparently, Karate Joe always requests Lifetime.
I know, I heard that.
I know, but I don't know if Daniel has it so the chat can hear what he says.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, so sometimes we have commentary that is not audible to the audience.
Right, yeah, so I think, so I was just checking.
So, normally, yeah, it wouldn't be a hassle, but this guitar happens to not be the correct tuning for Lifetime. But let's do a couple more songs and see where we are. If I have to detune it, it's possible. The trouble is not detuning, it's tuning back up to the original tuning is when things break. So. Gravity's stronger than all this fear-mongering, but it's more fun to be scared than tied down. That which divides us can also unite us, but irony went out of style and out of this town. Out of this town, out of this town, out of this town, this town, this town. I got distracted and can't be proactive with scuppers and sails in my periphery. But I will eat better before I eat butter. Season my I hear, but I haven't heard if it's here or if it's there. And if someone asked me, I'd be all they want. I'll wait for you in the parking lot. I'll wait for you in the car. Hey, yeah. Whoa, well, I know the ocean, it's where I came from. Home is the smell of the sea at low tide. And once there were whalers, well now they're all sailors. And we all have ghosts in the back of our mind. Back of our mind, back of our mind, back of our mind, our mind, our mind. Who will I marry? And who will carry me into the ground and out of this life? Scatter me over the mouth of the river and let me dissolve like the stars in tonight. Stars in tonight, stars in tonight, stars in tonight, tonight, tonight. And I won't be the lily maid who drifted off the shore, lay down in her boat and was heard from no more. Hurricanes will drown me before heartbreak does. Tape up the pains of love, wait for the rains to come. Tape up the pains of love, wait for the rains to come. Ooh, yeah. I'm fairly certain I'm more than what I hear, but I haven't heard if it's here or if it's there. And if someone asked me, I'd be all they want. I'll wait for you in the parking lot. I'll wait for you in the car, or car, as they say. Want to sing a song?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, you want to do a couple songs if you want to? Okay. No pressure. I know you've been busy. All right.
So, what are we doing?
Well, we were talking about the new year.
Yeah.
So
Who just did a New Year's party? Just like because 2020
Daniel's
is over, so over.
Daniel. No, Dave. Daniel.
Somebody was
in
just
this-
talking about one of their friends or something throwing a New Year's party. Kate apparently did that.
Kate means nothing to me though.
Like Kate, our friend in DC, Kate, or a different Kate? Okay. Anyway, somebody just threw a New Year's party, so this is for them.
Up in her. Christmas colored morning, red bags with silver tags, and we're all glad to be gathered in the same house, sleeping when it's cold outside. that still lingers. Your fingers finger for the light. Come ye faithful, hopeful children. Oh, no one here is blameless. No one else can take this gift and burden, turn it into kindness that compels us. Someone else could show us how to trust. Stillness with the sunrise. All alone and still unknown, your phone won't be shattering the silence. It's priceless, perfect peace. And butter on your breakfast can't replace the things you need. Oh, come ye faithful, hopeful children. Oh, no one here is blameless. No one else can take this guilt and burden, turn it into kindness that compels us. Someone else could show us. Oh, come ye faithful, you hopeful children. Come ye faithful, you hopeful children. Come ye faithful children. Come ye faithful, come ye faithful, hopeful children. Oh, no one here is blameless. No one else can take this guilt and burden, turn it into kindness that compels us. Someone else could show us how to trust. There's the chord there. Oh, why, thank you. Yay. I'm gonna hand over the reins. Kimberly Smith.
Kimberly
Yeah.
Smith.
Kim's gonna do a few songs, and then we are going to jump in with our friends Lisa and Matthew. Okay. Do you need a guitar?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Since that song came out.
When the truth is found to be lies, and all the joy within you dies. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. When the garden flowers, baby, are dead, and your mind, it's all full of red, full of red. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Your eyes, I said, baby, your eyes, they may look like keys. Oh, but in your head, I swear, baby, you don't know where it is. Huh, don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Turn around Every now and then I get a little bit lonely when you're never coming round. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit nervous that the best of all the years have gone by. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified, but then I see the look in your eyes. Turn around, bright eyes. And every now and then I fall apart. Turn around, bright eyes. Every now and then I fall apart. And I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever. And we'll only be making it right. 'Cause we can never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Your love is like a shadow on me all of the time. You know I need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start when once upon a time I was falling in love. Now I'm only falling apart. Nothing left to say. A total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life. Now there's only love in the dark. Nothing left to do. A total eclipse of the heart. Turn around, bright eyes. And every now and then I fall apart. Turn around, bright eyes. And every now and then I fall apart. And I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever. And we'll only be making it right. 'Cause we can never be wrong. Together we can take it to the end of the line. Your love is like a shadow on me all of the time. You know I need you tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start when once upon a time I was falling in love. Now I'm only falling apart. Nothing left to say. A total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life. Now there's only love in the dark. Nothing left to do. A total eclipse of the heart. Hello. Thank you. Yes. Thank you much. More sounds?
Yeah.
More sounds. We will do what, Una Mas? Okay, Groove Town. We got physicists on deck. I have questions about physics and time, and what you guys do with your days. But in the meantime, I'll play a song. Wild thing, you make my heart sing. You make everything groovy. Ha, wild thing. Wild thing, I think I love you. I wanna know for sure. Come on, hold me tight. Woo-hoo, I love you. Wild thing, you make my heart sing. You make everything groovy. Ha. A wild thing, wild thing. I think you move me, but I wanna know for sure. Come on, give me a kiss. You move me, oh wild thing. You make my heart sing. You make everything groovy, oh wild thing. Oh wild thing. You make my heart sing. You make everything groovy. Oh, wild thing. Thank you. Yes, that I believe concludes the musical portion of what we are doing here. Yes, very good. Yay! Is cool. And then next, I believe we'll be speaking with a couple of physicist friends. Physicalists. Yeah, no, I don't think that's.
Sorry, right when I got unmuted, I was about to sneeze.
Hello.
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 Lisa, Matthew, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh goodness.
Just checking on
Now we're
the
checking in.
transition, making sure that
We've
transitioned.
transitioned.
Yeah, we can't even tell because we don't have good enough internet to follow it on our phone in real time. We're like, the phone
A
is
bit
about
lagged
3
behind.
minutes behind.
But that's okay.
Okay. Hi.
All right.
Hello.
Cool.
Okay, so we have two lovely physicists with us. We have Lisa and Matthew, and I think we should probably start. Do you two mind introducing yourselves, saying what you do, why it's cool, and how to follow you and all of the. Yeah, let's do Lisa first.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Oh, me first. Well, so I am really an applied physicist, which is part of the reason why I suggested that Matthew come tonight, because we started talking. They were talking about time. Not convinced I'm qualified to answer these questions, but we'll find out.
We actually reached out to Lisa. We were like, we have questions about time. Can you answer them? She was like, I don't know, but I have a friend who can.
No guarantees.
Yeah, so I work as a health physicist, which is like a branch of applied physics that deals with things pertaining to radiation safety. And my specialty is radioecology, so it's how radioactive stuff moves through the environment, either from natural reasons, from accidents, just as like general stuff coming out of plants, that kind of thing. I'm very interested in environmental issues, and that's been a lot of my background. I worked as a consultant, an environmental consultant for a long time before going back to get my PhD, which I'm still finishing, but I also just started up as a physics professor at, so yeah, I'm really excited. My first week, it's exciting. At a small university in South Carolina that happens to have a specialty in my kind of thing with health physics, but I do also teach like intro physics as part of that job. So
Okay, Matthew, tell us about Matthew.
Hi. Well, I am actually a full-time science writer, and I have been for the past 9 years now. I also have a PhD, though, and Lisa suggested me because my research back when I did research was in cosmology, which is the study of the whole universe and all that kind of wild stuff. And so, one of the things that one of my real specialties is Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity, and that was the theory that combined space and time into one thing. And so understanding how time works in that, in that framework is a lot of what you have to do in that line of work. So, these days I don't do any more research, but I write about anything and everything to do with physics, astronomy, math. These days, sometimes even about viruses and that kind of fun stuff. So it's sort of inevitable, unavoidable. So,
which also makes him very good at explaining things.
we'll see how I do on the fly. If you have any hard questions about time,
you know, we'll no guarantees it'll be perfect explanation, but we'll see how we do.
Right, and that's all we can ask for here. Well, to get started, I just wanted to ask each of you, why physics? Lisa.
I go first. I kind of accidentally fell into physics, really. I started college and I thought I wanted to be a teacher, like a high school teacher, which is funny because I've kind of come full circle now in my mid-30s to teaching again. But I really thought I wanted to be a teacher. And my logic was that I hated chemistry at the time. I had a really bad high school chemistry teacher, which, you know, a high school teacher can really make or break your entire attitude about a subject for a long time. So I had a really bad high school chemistry teacher, so I hated chemistry. And so I was like, well, I could teach biology or physics. And if I teach biology, I teach high school freshmen. And if I teach physics, I teach like 17-year-olds and get to do really cool experiments. So physics it is. And that's kind of where I started majoring in that. And then part of it is that I didn't know a lot of what you could do with science at the time besides be a teacher or be like a professor, which was a very nebulous thing that I didn't understand at all. And so I started to learn about applied science, and I really liked this idea of, well, first I looked at medical physics, which are people who use radiation to cure diseases, and started looking into that, and then realized that the job I wanted and the job I would actually have were probably two really different things, and kind of just stepped into this health physics program, which is same principles but opposite, right? Like we want to protect people from radiation as opposed to using it to cure disease, and ended up really liking that field. And I've just kind of, everything was just sort of a trip and a fall, I think, in a lot of ways.
Nice. It's neat how that works out. I feel like I've met a lot of people that just sort of, that happened. They just sort of fell through the weird path of serendipity and synchronicity of life and ended up doing the thing that they're doing, or sidestepped from sciences.
Well, I mean, falling is physics, right?
Right, falling is.
There you go.
True. All right, Matthew, what about you? Why physics?
Well, physics, I actually, it was kind of unplanned. I went into college thinking, oh, well, I'll do physics because I had just finished physics in high school. You know, happened to have a really good professor who asked all sorts of wild and wacky questions about, you know, some really deep stuff having to do with physics. And so he just convinced me that this was something worth studying. And you know, I was always kind of up in the air about what I actually wanted to do with it. I followed the default path. If you study physics, you're going to be a professor or something like that. So I did that for a while. I was a professor for a little while, but the thing is that in college I also minored in English, and my last job in teaching, I had a chance to teach a class for non-scientists that had a big writing component, and I said, okay, if my students have to write, so do I. And so I started a blog, because that was back in the day when blogs were actually so many years ago, back 10 years ago, when blogs were actually a big thing. And so I started a blog, and then that gave me enough of a portfolio to get started writing about things. So, you know, the thing about physics is it's such a big field. I mean, you look at what Lisa does and what I did when I did research are pretty much as far apart as you can get. You know, mine was pure math at points. You know, or talking about things that are, you know, that we cannot do in the lab. You know, galaxy clusters, the biggest things in the universe, galaxy clusters, or black holes. These are things we can't do in the lab. So it's like on the opposite end of you know, it's real, it's all real stuff, but it's like the opposite end of things from what Lisa does. And so that's something that I find eternally fascinating about physics. It's not, you can barely even call it one field. It's a big umbrella, big grab bag of a whole bunch of things that are related by some basic concepts. And I think that's really kind of cool and beautiful.
To be sure.
And that feeds really nicely into my next question, because I am so amazed and intrigued by how vast all the fields of science are, and in this case specifically physics, and how really
It's not just me, right? Oh no.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you a question while we're waiting for their internet to catch up here.
Okay.
What is it like, as physicists, there's Hollywood has their own idea of what a physicist is like. And how does it feel whenever you see a physicist on screen that they're the experts in anything? They're creating viruses and cures and fixing automobiles and making rocket ships.
Well, physicists sure like to think they can do all this.
Some do, yeah. Some are like that, yeah.
That's what your day's like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to diplomatically answer that question. It's tricky for me because as an applied scientist, I have joked a lot about, but it's not really an exaggeration in that, I have one of the specific kind of field that I'm in one of the few fields where I really do in a lot of ways. I just am a scientist. I kind of I do every major branch, especially because I really veered into environmental studies, right? So I have a lot of background now in ecology, and also doing environmental stuff. Funny enough, a lot of chemistry, right? A lot of, especially when I was doing things like groundwater modeling and those sorts of things, you have to understand the chemistry of how things work. It's all kind of underpinned with this backbone of physics and understanding atomic interactions. That's an important part of that. But then on top of it, at the end of the day, I'm still looking at this idea of what happens to people or animals or plants if they get exposed. And that's a lot of biology. And even within my own field, my master's research was, because I did a master's first, then worked, and then went back for PhD. So my master's research was building a radiation detector to go in a spacesuit. So it was very electronics heavy and understanding those sort of principles of electronics and physics that went into detecting radiation. My PhD research has all been working on trying to figure out if you can use bacteria to sense nuclear weapons. And I work with somebody who is a cell biologist on that project. But it's also involved me now. I have all these different areas that I learned a lot about, and I stepped into my PhD and I still had a whole new area to learn a lot about, which was cell biology. I had to learn a ton about that. So the one thing I'd say for physics is that I think in a lot of ways it prepares you very well to try to step into other things, because it's a lot of what you learn at the undergraduate level is just really good problem solving skills. If, ideally, that's what you should, now that said, there's a lot of people who do step way out of what they should be stepping in, and I think that culture kind of puts physicists on this pedestal that is not really fair. And so you see that in movies, right? Because all of a sudden the physicists can do basically anything because they just assume that if you're a physicist, you can do anything. And I don't think that's really true. But I think that there's a problem with kind of how culture puts that particular profession on a pedestal over a lot of other things.
For instance, I don't even own a lab coat. I can't remember the last time I think the last time I wore a lab coat was actually I can tell you it was my second year of college, which was several decades ago.
Well, and even when I started doing my PhD research, it's the first time I've ever done what will be called wet bench research, which is the people who have to wear lab coats and use pipettes and beakers and all that kind of stuff. I hadn't done any of that since I was basically, actually, it's not true, because I did take a radiochemistry class in grad school. So that was the last time I had done it. But even that was still very heavily geared toward people who didn't really have that kind of background, right? So when I started grad school, they just kind of let me go in the lab assuming things. And I was like, whoa, y'all got to stop, because you need to remind me how to properly pipette and some basic lab safety of what I can and can't mix, because I'm a dumb physical scientist. I have no idea how to do that stuff.
So you haven't hacked any UFOs since you were an undergrad?
Yeah, it's been a while,
Well, you needed to what was the what they do in that? That was a computer virus, right? And Independence Day. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember.
right.
It's like I'm so competent to write a computer virus as a theoretical physicist.
I think we've got Kim back now.
Yes, we are here.
Good.
Awesome. So into the nitty gritty of it all, I have a big curiosity about time, as I'm sure many other people do. And I've been trying really hard, especially the last couple of months, to do my part into doing a little bit of research and getting more familiar with physics and like trying to figure out what the cuss time is. And the thing I have noticed while trying to do this, it is very difficult to get physicists to define terms. And so my question is, how do you define time?
This is all you, man.
Okay, well that's that is actually a tricky question, because the thing is time is one of those things that seems like it should be easy, but it turns out it is actually a little difficult, because okay, think about when we talk about space-time in gravity or modern physics in general, we say, okay, well, space and time are like intertwined, and so they can change kind of back and forth into each other when you get close to the speed of light, or when you have strong gravity, it affects how fast time moves. But the thing is, time and space still are kind of different, because time goes forward. You can move back and forth in space, but you can't go back in time. So there's still some kind of fundamental difference. And so what we say is, time is, we kind of have, I would say, a practical definition, which is, okay, things happen in an order. Okay, if you were to take my sentence and reverse it, it wouldn't make any sense. If you were to flip all the words around, if you're so we say, okay, well, things happen one thing after another. And so that's what time is it's a way of ordering events so that they make sense in a physics sort of way, not in a language way, but a physics sort of way. So there are things that have to happen in a certain order, because you cannot have the effect happening before the cause, for example. Now, why that has to be the case is a lot more complicated, and physicists will even argue over whether it needs to be that way, or whether our universe just happens to be that way because that's that we happen to live in such a universe where that's the case, and it doesn't have to be that way. And so, yes, it is a hard question, because you think, oh, time, that's got to be simple, right? It's got to be simple, but in a way it's not. And in fact, one of the things you'll find, and Lisa can back me up on this, a lot of times what you do in physics is you try to find physical systems where things either repeat themselves, like planets orbiting around the sun, or pendulum swinging back and forth, and then these things carry into the microscopic world too, like atoms pulsating and emitting and absorbing light. So time is sort of irrelevant in that, because it's things that keep repeating themselves. Or you find systems where you just leave time out, because they don't change in time that much. So in other words, this is, it's when you're saying it's hard to get a simple answer, it's because there isn't one. Right. And that can be okay, because the thing is, we understand we understand the how if we don't always understand the why.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And that's, yeah, it does. And that's, I've been working with my own definitions of time, right? And so that was also part of what I wanted to do here, because I feel like part of why it is so slippery to define time is because time is just the perception of space. Like as humans use the word time, a lot of what we mean is just our perception of space. I am moving through space, and so I experience time. And as Einstein revealed to the world, that is all very relative, and my time is different than everyone else's time based upon how quickly we are moving through the space that we exist in. And so that has me thinking time is like purely conceptual, right? Like time could just be defined as the perception of space. Like space and time, like you said, space-time, it's interwoven. You can't really isolate one from the other, but there is some difference, right? Because the space and time behave differently. And so I have the second definition of time I've been working with, and that's time is four-dimensional space. And it is space as viewed like over time. Like it's really hard to say other than just using time in the definition, but just four-dimensional space. And the reason we go forward in time is everything progresses, and we can't go backwards in time because we can't move all of the space and all of the cosmos, all of the substance and void backwards to exactly the same location that we were. And all of the atoms in our bodies and everything, we can't reverse that flow because we don't have that force of will. And so we can all progress forward. And so the four-dimensional space can progress forward, but it can't really progress back. So those are my two definitions. Time is the perception of motion through space, and time is four-dimensional space. Does that track?
Okay, so in physics, we actually do have two.
Oh my God, I would be so upset.
Definitions.
Oh no!
Okay, so
Yeah.
have you heard it? Okay, you, Lisa, you probably knew this word was coming.
Yeah.
Entropy.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, so here's where things get even more fun, and part of the reason why, if you have, and it doesn't even have to be very complicated, but if you have like interactions between more than two things, and all it takes is three things. So like the Earth, Mercury, and the Sun, or Jupiter, Mercury, and the Sun would be a better example because Jupiter's a lot bigger. What you have is a fundamental unpredictability that gets built in, because these interactions build up over time, and you'd have to have perfect knowledge of everything to map out where everything is going to be infinitely far into the future. And so if you start building all of that up and add more particles, more gas molecules, more planets, whatever, you end up having what ends up being something called entropy, which we say is things tend to occupy the maximum amount of possibilities they can have. So you put gas in a container and then open the container, the gas molecules will spread out. Okay, that maximizes the possible configurations they can have. And so we say entropy is increasing as they move out. And this is oversimplifying, so forgive me, Lisa. But that gives another definition of time, because it doesn't make sense to run the clock backwards and have all of those gas molecules spontaneously leap into the container. Okay, you drop a cup of coffee on the floor, a tragedy of tragedies. Okay, the cup shatters and the coffee goes everywhere. Okay, it doesn't make sense to run the clock backwards, and the coffee unspreading, jumping into the coffee cup, which comes back together and flies up into the air. Okay, so there is a fundamental difference between time running forward and time running backwards. Just whenever you have enough particles or enough interactions or enough stuff in a system. And so that is in many ways, that is the more strangely enough, that's an even more fundamental definition of time than the one from relativity, oddly enough. And we don't have a complete understanding of how those two things fit together, because the time that we think of from relativity is because the universe had a beginning. There was a Big Bang, and time goes forward from that. There's a fundamental difference between the past and the future, because after a certain point there was no past. And so you've got entropy, and then you've got relativity, and anybody who can figure out exactly how those things go together is a smarter person than I am. But I love this stuff. This is again one of these things that keeps us interested, right? You know. I think we lost our host again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be able to catch this on the playback. So
once they get back up, I'll.
Oh, there they are. Well, maybe.
Are you guys up? Well, I see almost. There we go. I think you're getting. Yes, I hear you.
We have been so upset because you were saying something that sounded
very interesting,
really interesting, and then you cut out.
Right, cut out right as we were talking about how the gas molecules don't spontaneously go back into the jar because entropy demands they take up.
It was like time needs to move forward because
as much disorder as they can.
Doesn't go the other way or something.
So like another definition of time might.
Oh no! Uh-oh.
Oh.
So it's like they're trapped in like a quanta of time, and that they're only existing in certain phases.
Yay! Oh, almost.
Yeah, they say they keep almost coming in. This is more like Doctor Who than physics at the moment. I should have referenced wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
So, a quick question from the darkness. So entropy can be, I guess, not reversed, but lessened and smallened if you add more energy to a system, if it's not a closed system. Is that? I have no idea if that's accurate.
You want to handle that one, Lisa, or should I?
You can take it.
Okay. Yeah, entropy. The thing about entropy is that you can decrease it. You can decrease it under certain circumstances, like if you're forming a star or forming a planet. I'm drawing from astrophysics there.
So immense amounts of energy.
Yeah, well, so what you're doing there is you are decreasing it dramatically in forming the star, but you're increasing it elsewhere in the universe because you're trading off the intensely ordered star for shedding a huge amount of material off into space while it happens.
So entropy is also conserved in the universe.
No, it actually tends to grow.
Okay.
It's unfortunately a limitless resource that we can't use.
Boo!
It's because it's not energy. Unfortunately, it sounds like energy, but it's not. So energy is conserved, but entropy is not. So you can always make more entropy.
But it is possible to decrease entropy with like a lot of energy and knowing that the entropy is going to be shed off elsewhere.
Yeah.
This was fun because have written some books that are erotic time travel sex comedy books, and
yeah,
talking about, so there's two characters and they were super horny chicks in a sorority in college, and one of them is a physicist and one of them is a history major. And so what they do is, the physicist has built a time machine in her shower, and they use it to travel throughout time and have sex with various historical figures. And so I get asked a lot about the mechanics of it, and I've tried to keep it as mysterious as possible to make it sound just convincing enough.
That's my preferred method of dealing with that kind of thing. I feel like if you're gonna break the actual laws of how things work, don't try to like explain it with real physics, and then but that doesn't really work. I'd rather you just like I can suspend my disbelief if you don't get super specific about it, right? So
yeah, I found that that's really served me well, especially in explaining it to people, because then you can't create plot holes if you're not really explaining things at that level of scientific detail.
Yeah. Well, this is something, I mean, this gets back to the very first question about, the portrayal of physicists in movies and things. It's like, it actually bothers me less to have a big suspension of disbelief than to have a small one. Because if you're saying, okay, everything is everything is good science, except that we're going to make the fifth dimension love. Not that I'm talking about any movie in particular.
Well, it's kind of the Fifth Element, I guess.
Well, the fifth element you could tell was written by a teenager.
I love it, but I was like, really, the power of love? I mean, I was a teenager when I saw it. So.
So again, it's like.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the comment I'll make on all of this is that I think one of the reasons why time is such a confusing thing to really try to grasp, especially if you don't have all of that physics background, is that in a lot of ways, so we have this sort of like colloquial way that we deal with time, right? So we live in a life where, when Matt was talking about that, those like kind of periodic motions, those things that repeat over and over, we've set this frame of reference in our lives in what ultimately in the scale of the universe is a very tiny microscopic way of living our lives off of this periodic flow of how we kind of circle around the sun and how our planet spins around itself. And that's actually this tiny little subset and very, very micro view of time. But since we've been basically born, that's what time is this thing that we have to always like go by. So even when you do acknowledge that that's not exactly what time might be, it's a very difficult leap, I think, to try to get your mind to, we've really ingrained this idea that time is minutes and seconds and days, and I think that trying to step into a bigger and broader definition is a really hard thing to grasp, just because we really have a very culturally and like mentally ingrained way of seeing time.
Right. So,
are we back?
My one more question. How do you
You're
define...
back.
Oh, good. We're going to have to rewatch this episode.
Right, yeah, we missed a lot of the feedback we got from you.
Stuff.
I'm going to have to go back and watch this again. I need to know, how do you define space?
Well, space in a way is easier because it's just, what you can measure with a stick. I mean, that's almost literally how it's defined in physics.
Right. I've been working with the definition that space is substance and void.
Kind of. I mean, that kind of breaks down with quantum mechanics. We do not have time to talk about quantum mechanics. So it's and actually that's another thing is time is a little weird in quantum mechanics too, so we definitely will not get into that. Space is in a lot of ways very, very simpler, is very simpler. Wow, that's good English. Is much simpler just because you can measure space in much easier ways. And so we don't have to do anything nearly as complicated as we do with time. And we lost our hosts again.
Yeah.
So maybe we could talk about nuclear power, since that was the question asked.
Is that a question we really want to get onto?
We will talk about anything you want to talk about. There's also a question of what are your favorite time travel movies?
Oh, favorite time travel movies.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
And again, if you want to talk about suspension of disbelief, there's nothing believable in that movie in the
No,
slightest.
no, that's
And-
what makes it great. I'm trying to think, like, that's off the top of my head. Let's hear. I know there's something I'm not thinking of that I really liked, but Bill and Ted is definitely a good one that's up there.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Oh, this is the first. That was also like, I mean, you can't not. I feel like there's something I'm looking kind of through, like. I don't know if it really counts as a movie, but I pretty much loved any time Futurama messed around with time.
If we broaden the genre, I mean, we obviously are Doctor Who fans here, based on what people are saying.
Yeah.
Great big
I'm looking at like a
ball of
list. I'm
wibbly
looking at like a
wobbly-
list of them just to get some ideas of things, like of which ones I'm maybe not thinking of, and I don't even think of this as a time travel movie, but it's totally a time travel movie, which is The Terminator.
yeah, that's definitely
Like in my
that's no
head,
question.
that's not the first
Yeah.
thing that comes to mind as a time travel movie, but it's absolutely a time travel movie.
Because the protagonists don't. Well, okay, I guess what's his name travels in time, but the villain travels in time, and that's
there's not, but it's not really focused on time travel being the way, that's not really the big.
Well, I'd say it's all about time travel, just not the way we're used to thinking of time travel. It's effect before cause. Like
the heroes are not going back in time to fix things. The villains are going back in time to fix things from their perspective. So yeah, it's sort of the inverse of the usual time travel narrative. But yeah, Terminator definitely is a time travel movie. Let's see. Yeah, one thing though that I do find.
I don't even know.
Or maybe we don't even know if we're here. That's true.
We don't even know.
Fair. We're not. We're
At
not
the moment,
here.
you're here.
But we're not.
We're here.
Oh, we are.
I'm so excited to rewatch this.
I should put pants on.
Yeah, sorry about. I probably should have stopped talking when you disappeared. I wasn't sure if it was better to keep going or not. Oh, and they're gone again.
No bag.
I'm back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, I think we're just not going to be able to engage in this conversation. Can Daniel and Rissy handle the rest of this?
Totes my goats. We got this shit. I have a question about Chernobyl and radiation.
Oh yeah, sure, go for it. That's definitely my alley.
All right. So I know it seems to surprise a lot of people that life has returned to Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And that there's not that there's radioactive wolves, but there are any wolves to begin with. And so I'm a biologist by trade, and what I was curious about is so is the life there are there a lot of three-eyed fish a la The Simpsons, or is it just somehow you just have regular plants and animals and other life? They're just really irradiated.
So what's really there's a couple of important points I would say here. One is that ultimately what Chernobyl is showing and the regrowth of a lot of species there and how well they're doing is that pretty much the worst thing for animal populations is people, right? So ultimately the issue is that we have this huge excluded zone. And so in some ways it's a lot like a nature preserve, only it's better protected than nature preserves are. And we see a lot of animals thriving there because there's no cars running them over, there's no people hunting them, there's no one destroying their habitat. All those things that would reduce an animal population just aren't happening there. So when you look at the populations of animals, they're pretty on par with, like, say, it with what a nature preserve would have. And they actually have numbers that can compare them directly to similar areas in the same kind of climate zones and that same country, that kind of thing, with similar rules that show that those are the numbers. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that radiation doesn't have any effect on the on the individuals there. So we don't have a huge population effect, but we do have individual effects. It tends to be more those effects. There's some evidence of, like, oh, maybe there's like a little bit more of a bird that has this one stripe or that kind of thing. But what really happens with radiation and those kinds of effects for environmentally are that you have young that don't thrive. So it's kind of a, do they live or do they not live? And what's interesting about radiation is that from that sort of genetic standpoint of mutations, we don't really have, when we're talking about ionizing radiation specifically, which is the kind of thing we've got there's not any mutations that are unique to ionizing radiation. And it's one of the reasons why when we start to get down to really low doses of radiation, we can't actually tell you exactly what the effects are, because they're well within just like the normal background radiation we live in every day. And since none of those mutations are unique, we can only kind of see them like above or below general background mutations that happen. So there's lots of reasons why you could have that kind of damage that could cause whatever mutation that happens. But they're not only mutations that happen specifically because you got, exposed to gamma radiation or that kind of thing. And
is
so,
that because, sorry, can I interrupt? Is that because the more severe mutations are fatal always? Is that really why that is?
It's just that the way that radiation, this gets really into this can get really into the weeds, because a lot of like what my research is looking at is trying to figure out if you can find things that are unique when you get a little bit smaller than mutations and actually look at gene expression itself. But from just like a strict what kind of mutations happen standpoint, the way that the mutations happen is that radiation deposits energy into whatever fluid it hits, which in this case is water. It ionizes a lot of water. Those ions are really good at just ripping DNA apart. And so they just basically tear DNA apart, that kind of thing. So you may have heard the phrase like free radicals, I think is like a big one with like makeup and all that kind of stuff.
Reactive oxygen species.
Like basically anything that causes that kind of damage can rip apart your DNA. And so that's really the main mechanism of how that's happening. When you start getting into things that are like really high doses, we get out of that realm of you get a mutation that causes some kind of a cancer or something like that, or causes some kind of big effect. You're getting into things that just are causing an acute effect that kills you. So you're killing a lot of cells that, if you kill enough cells, you kill your body, basically is what happens. So there's not, like when we talk about mutations that can cause a cancer or some kind of damage, none of those things are really unique to radiation per se. But you can certainly have effects that just kill enough cells that would kill something. And that's also when you look at it from a gestation standpoint. So if you have an animal that's pregnant or even just something in an egg or something like that, you kind of have your, like, if you think about it, at least the easiest way to think about it would be from like kind of the mammal standpoint of the trimesters. Those have a lot of basis in most mammals of what kind of growth is going on. So if you get exposed to radiation your first trimester, there's usually no evidence of any effects if the embryo, or I don't know what the line is with embryo and fetus, but if it survives, there tend to be no effects that you can really see like later on in life. Because it's either, you abort, your body just aborts the baby, or you are fine. And if you get into the third trimester, when all of your major organs and all those things are formed, you might have a little bit of a low birth weight weight and it might kind of affect the growth, but generally speaking, that's okay. It's when you get into that middle zone where you're trying to actually grow and form all of your different organs and all of your different tissues. That's when you can have some really bad problems from radiation exposure because you're basically inhibiting that growth at a really critical time for the development of all those different cells. And as they start to learn, they're really rapidly differentiating. Anytime you're differentiating a cell, radiation is going to be really damaging, right? Because like you have to spread, you go from this little teeny tiny target where all of your DNA is all wound up and small to spreading it out really big to actually be replicating it, right? So as they're doing all that, as they're starting to become specialized and replicate, you start to create these really big targets. And that part of it is still just like totally pure physics and math and statistics, basically, right? Like you have these random bits of radiation coming in and depositing energy. If they happen to deposit energy in the right spot, they can cause the damage. The bigger you make that target, the more likely they are to do it, right?
There's also, like, so in terms of mutations, so it's important to remember that most mutations are not beneficial, logically speaking. And also, so if you're exposed to radiation as an adult, it might kill you, it might give you cancer, but it's not going to give you superpowers or change your body. Aside from killing you or giving you cancer, what it might do
is fiction.
what it might do is mutate your gametes, so your sperm and your egg cells. Now with sperm, the body can generally just destroy them because sperm are very cheap to make. But eggs, first of all, have already been made. So if something weird happens to them because of radiation, oftentimes the body's like, send it on through. We'll just fix it in post, whatever.
But what's interesting though is that like theoretically that is what should happen, right? There isn't actually any like there's no actual evidence though of that happening in human populations. Now, it could be happening at just such a low level that we can't really see it above kind of those backgrounds. And there is some evidence of it in like the really big mouse studies they've done. There's a big one they call like the Million Mouse, where they just went generations and generations of mice, and they were able to see those kinds of generational effects in mice. So if it could happen in mice, it stands to reason that it certainly could happen to us, right? But we start to run into this problem of statistics with people because we only have so many people, who get exposed. All of these things could happen just from normal things that could happen from all the different ways that our body can be harmed by the environment that we live in. So trying to tease that out like statistically above background is really hard to do. And that's where a lot of this idea of pushing low dose research into looking at how your genes are expressing themselves becomes really important, because those are things that we might be able to, like, our numbers become much more beneficial in terms of what we could statistically actually prove and demonstrate. But that's really like
UT Southwestern. Oh, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
At UT Southwestern that gets funding from NASA to study the effects of radiation, like the type you would find in space, on Drosophila. And just what is it doing to fruit flies and whatnot in the context specifically of DNA repair.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about space is, and even what they do when they send stuff on the shuttle is still not really right. So this was actually, so my master's research was on looking at building dosimeters for space, and it was specifically looking at trying to build one for what at the time the plan was to build a moon base to kind of prepare us to go to Mars, right? That was this was 2007 when I was in my master's program. And so that at the time was kind of the NASA plan, was build some kind of base on moon so we could get used to being out in space and then head off to Mars. Lately, they've kind of gone back and forth and here and there and all those things with that plan. But the problem is that, so in space, we have this just like from all directions, all the time, heavily accelerated ions that go all the way up to like heavily accelerated iron. And it doesn't happen very often, but if they hit you, it's really damaging because they've got a lot of mass, and so they can really damage you if they hit you. Now, all of those heavy ions on the planet Earth, we've got a magnetic field, right? So basically, those heavy ions, because they have so much mass, are really easily deflected and end up just sort of deflecting right around the planet, and we don't really see them on Earth. But as soon as we get out of that magnetic influence of Earth, we're very subject to that, including even on the moon. Even in the International Space Station, because where they're at, they're still fairly well protected by that. but that's the big concern about space is that we don't know exactly. A lot of those effects are really things we haven't been able to study because we don't have that kind of environment at all, and we're not really sure. And that even affects things not just biologically, but there's a lot of concerns about what that does in the long term to physical equipment. And when we're constantly like irradiating all of our different components and computers and if we're hitting those kind of heavy ions going into metal, are they causing interactions in the metal that are actually raising the radiation rate inside of the little capsule that the people are in, those kinds of things. So you have two really big directions. One is the people looking kind of biologically, trying to understand what's going on there and how we can make sure that we can protect people if we were to go into more of this sort of like actually being out and traveling in space. And the other side is people who look a lot at trying to understand the integrity of materials and how those materials are going to hold up in the long term.
So,
yeah.
So from radiation in space to radiation on the planet, what are your thoughts about nuclear power as far as, should we be pursuing it? Is it necessary for short term? Should we be stopping it at all? And just as a reminder, you're free to do as much swearing as you want.
So I believe very strongly in having diversified energy and lots of different ways to get our energy. I think that depending on any one source is a foolish endeavor, personally. That's how wars get started, for starters. And also, as technology and things change, we learn things, and having one source we depend on is a really bad idea. I think that in a way to try to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, nuclear for baseload is certainly a good way to go. That said, I'm still a very strong component in pushing a lot more of what would more traditionally be called our renewables, of our solar and wind and even like wave power and those kinds of things. Hydro is mostly built out. So I don't think we should really be damming up much more rivers, but other than that, I'm pretty in favor of those renewables being explored. But we do have to get to a point where we can really get good baseload electricity. And we were kind of leaning toward that. And a lot of people will blame Fukushima and say that that's what really damaged the nuclear industry. But if you want to get into politics, what was also really going on at that time is that the price of natural gas had gotten really low. And so a lot of politicians and, the people who fund politicians took the opportunity of Fukushima to really push subsidies away from nuclear to make it a lot more expensive in an attempt to really make nuclear or natural gas much more competitive. And that's really, it's easy to just blame Fukushima as kind of just messing up this whole nuclear revolution we're going to have. We're going to build, 50 or 30 something new reactors, all had these licenses in, most of which all got pulled. But if you ask me, this was definitely a more political move that took advantage of that situation to push natural gas than actually a political move as a direct response to Fukushima itself. I think that one of the things that people forget a lot about solar and wind is that we still need a lot of things to build those. We still need a lot of like rare earth materials, and we need a lot of metal to build those things. And right now, we don't really mine that stuff in the U.S. We don't want it to come from the U.S. because, it's dirty and mining is bad, obviously. And so we buy it from countries where they don't have the same kind of environmental standards that we have here, but that's because that's where it's affordable to get it from. And so we still have to, there is still a pretty big scar in the environment to just push building wind and building solar, because we have to get the materials to build those things from somewhere. And we don't really have, a lot of those materials come from places where it's not done very sustainably. And I personally think that it's just as bad to be polluting a town and a river and an ecosystem in, say, China or Sri Lanka, or, some of it even comes from like Kazakhstan, those kinds of places. I think that's just as bad as polluting a river or a town here, right?
Amen.
So, I think that because we've been able to push a lot of the production of that stuff out of the US, it makes it feel really good to do this stuff because it feels really clean. But there's a lot of really poor safety, health, and environmental standards that go into getting the materials to produce those things. So I think that if we tried to just only push wind and solar, the long-term toll of doing that and getting the materials to do that is really pretty bad in a lot of ways for society, for people, for the environment, all those things. So if we want to get off of fossil fuels, I'm for keeping our current nuclear fleet of the ones that are still in good operation going. I think that probably politically the best way forward, we have a couple of big reactors that'll go online, but moving more toward the small modular reactor style, where we've got little tiny reactors that even if there is an accident, the consequences are pretty small. And the cost of building them is a lot lower. I think that that's a really good way to be building kind of the base load that we need to get to a future where we're less dependent on fossil fuels. But a lot of this is in the hands of the fact that we as an industry have been just terrible at public relations, and we don't have a lot of public trust. And a lot of people in nuclear like to blame people not wanting to learn and don't want to acknowledge the fact that like the nuclear industry has done some atrocious things in the past, and if they don't acknowledge that and own up to that, like no one's ever going to trust that we're not going to do it again. And a lot of this was really like me and Matthew have had this conversation before, because a lot of this stuff was harder for me to understand before the Trump administration, because I worked as an environmental consultant for a long time. And I worked with mining companies, and people would say, well, how can you do that? You know, you're an environmentalist. How could you do that? And I was like, but I have a huge amount of say in what happens by doing this. Like I am personally trying to help ensure that these things are done as cleanly and safely as responsibly as they can be. And, you know, in the past, we did a lot of bad things, but there's so much accountability now. You can't do that stuff anymore. You know, it was a really different time. Everybody was held accountable for those actions. And this administration proved, like, I really truly believe that that would never happen again. And this administration completely proved me wrong.
They do kind of go out of their way to act like Captain Planet villains, just straight up,
they do. And the idea that we could have leadership that could take that accountability away has become a very real fear now, right? And a very reasonable thing to believe to me that I didn't understand before. So it's tricky when you have an industry that really has done a bad job just historically of gaining trust.
So to try to work our way out of this depression hole here, nuclear fusion. You know, there's one question from the chat about that. You know,
what is that?
We've always been talking about it, like, oh, maybe in 50 years, or and here's this new development, and like every 50 years it seems to be in every 50 years. And I know how the press loves to latch onto headlines and the way scientific progress doesn't get reported very well. Has there been a proper level of progression in that, or is it still just kind of one of these things that we dream about that might be possible one day? Does the math work out?
I don't think there's been, in my opinion, I don't think any of the research has shown promise for like large scale use of fusion. We certainly have ways to control those interactions in a laboratory setting, but in terms of like a large scale rollout that could really be used as like a commercial power source, I don't personally see that happening anytime, probably even within our lifetime. I don't know. As a science writer, Matthew, you might have, I don't know if you've covered any things related to fusion. Maybe you have some different opinions on that, but.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not my area. I've written a little bit about it, but the thing is, I feel like a lot of progress has been made, but saying progress has been made is a different thing from saying, yes, this is going to be the energy of the future. I'd like to think that eventually we will, but I don't know what the path is, and there's a big difference between, like Lisa's saying, there's a big difference between the kinds of experiments that are being done and what a power plant would look like. There's a big difference, huge difference. They don't look anything alike. So nobody's saying that the big nuclear fusion experiment being built in Europe is going to look like the prototype of a power plant you might be seeing somewhere else. Nobody's saying that, but it's kind of like as a PR thing, they kind of have to almost pretend it is. And so I don't know. That's a long way of coming around to saying I don't know.
We certainly, the research we have has yet to show that we couldn't ever use it as like a large scale. Does that make sense? Like we haven't said, okay, no, this will definitely never happen. Like
So the dream of Dyson spheres is still alive.
Yes. yeah.
Dyson spheres, I actually don't think will happen.
Oh no, Dyson
That's a
spheres.
different question. That's a different question.
But in terms
Here's
of
hoping the Europe stuff, like if we could get a fusion reactor working, that one single weasel can't disrupt the entirety.
There we go.
that's the other timeline. What's the?
Is that the weasel?
So I think we still have Kim back on the line. Kim, do you have any questions still? Well, I'm sure you have questions, but anything that you'd like to ask right now?
Kim is not here.
You can pretend to be Kim.
I cannot pretend to be Kim. And honestly, like, I'm just really enjoying watching this show. So keep going.
I have a question about Tifa.
Yeah.
I would like to ask Lisa about her. How is she doing? You rescued
She's
her
doing
in
great.
like, February? March?
Yeah, no, April, mid-April. So Tifa,
April.
hold on, I'll grab her
What is
from her.
time? Oh, we already answered that.
I'll go grab this little kitty. Oh, I'm sorry, you were sleeping. This is this little kitty. Her name is Tifa.
Oh, Tifa.
Yes. So Tifa, I found in my yard. And Tifa was about 5 ounces.
I remember.
Yeah, she was about this big. The rest of her litter was not so lucky. Not that I brought them in and they didn't survive, but they were already dead. And I was cleaning them up so the dogs didn't get into them. And then looked underneath a little set of stairs and found her still alive. So I brought her in and bottle fed her, and I had never done that before, which is why y'all were really nice and helping offer a lot of advice on that one. And we bottle fed every 2 hours, and we weighed her a lot, and she lived in a scarf around my neck most of the time while I worked because no one was going anywhere anyway. And she's finally crossed the 4-pound threshold. I think she's still going to be kind of little. I don't know if it's real. I read several places that their weight at like 16 weeks, if you double it, is a good estimate of their adult weight. And she was just barely 4 pounds at 16 weeks. So she's actually, everyone keeps commenting on how big she was, because when I first started posting pictures, she was just a little tiny potato. But she's actually still very small. But she's doing really well. She's big enough to spay now, so that will happen soon. But I was about to move, so I wanted to wait until everything was settled with the move before I put her through that. But she's horrible, which is great, and I love her so much. And she really likes potato chips.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Really?
She will, like, I can't, if I eat chips of any kind, I can't even take the bag out on the couch. I have to like pour them in a bowl and bring it out, which is good for me really because it's good portion control. But like if she even hears the bag, like she will just not leave you alone. She'll keep trying to jump into the bag to get a chip. Once she realizes it's not a potato chip, she'll still try to eat it but be disappointed and keep looking for potato chips. Like she just loves potato chips. And frosting also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My kind of cat. So I don't know where we are in the show because we've been cutting in and out. But the one thing that I wanted to ask Matthew about your comic book. Are you crowdfunding a thing right now? What could please explain?
Well, I can't draw, but I collaborate with a true genius comic artist named Maki Nero. And
Maki's
Elisa
amazing.
Elisa knows Maki. I don't know if you know each other in person or just through the internet, but
I do know Maki in person.
Yeah, I know the three of us have never been in the same place at the same time,
That's
but
true.
we've
Yes, that is true.
but but we've been doing science comics for a website called The Nib, which is an award-winning nonfiction comics publisher. And we put together a collection of the comics we've done, and we're crowdfunding. It's called Who Owns an Asteroid? And it's through the crowdfunding publisher Unbound, which is also known for publishing the Bilbo the Orange Cat from Belfast, that book, and let's see, what else? Trying to remember who else is published there, but it's a whole bunch of other places that are much funnier than our stuff. We do comics, but they're not very funny comics, shall we say? But we try to talk about how science is actually done as opposed to the ideal of it. The title comic, Who Owns an Asteroid, is talking about can we automatically assume we own asteroids just because nobody's living there? Do we get to say, oh, they belong to us? Is this, because that's basically the attitude that colonialism had and led to all sorts of disasters all around the world. And a lot of people are actually questioning the whole paradigm of, do we go to Mars and just start building colonies and say Mars belongs to us and whatnot? And so we wanted to look at things from a different angle. And then we also have, comics about, when Charles Schultz promoted vaccination when the measles vaccine first came about in the 1960s. He did a whole series of comics promoting vaccination. We've done stuff. We did an interview. Actually, Lisa is in one of our comics. We did one interviewing scientists when Trump first took office and asking scientists how they felt this was going to influence things from all sorts of perspectives, whether it was queer scientists facing increased LGBT discrimination, whether it was Black scientists facing the racist policies of a xenophobic administration. Talk to a Canadian scientist who had already gone through this in Canada with an anti-science administration there. And so we talk about a lot of different things. And so that's Who Owns an Asteroid from Unbound. And you pledge and you can get a book, and then we don't charge you until the full fund has been met. So you don't have to worry about losing out on money. That was not an elevator pitch. That was a little long-winded, but
that sounds absolutely great. I assume like the cowboy rules should take effect, right? You go out and you lasso the asteroid, and then whoever lassos it, then it belongs to them, right? Like you got to ride it around. And
asteroids are mostly rubble, so that wouldn't work very well, unfortunately.
Sounds like yeehaw to me.
Oh, but Maki's art is really beautiful.
Yeah.
If you go to the Nib site and look at some of these comics, there's one we did. Remember Oumuamua, the asteroid that came from another star system that visited our solar system? He depicted it as a piece of driftwood passing through the solar system, and it's an absolutely beautiful piece of art. So I feel very privileged to be working with him on comics, and we've got another one coming out very soon. Another comic.
His Twitter handle is @ScienceComic too, if you want to look him up, because he's great.
That does sound really cool. Yeah. Can we get that up in the chat? Link.
Okay.
Fast on the trigger.
So I don't know where we once again, we've been cutting in and out, and I don't know where we are, but I just want to say that Lisa and Matthew, you are amazing, and like,
Thank you.
This is the one time where we've made this silly streaming show, and I'm actually going to go back and listen to it because we missed so much stuff that I was like, I really want to do that, and you cut out right before we got to like how time works. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here with us. I hope we can do more stuff in the future because you are amazing.
I really actually enjoyed listening to Matthew explain a lot of that stuff because as somebody who's kind of going back into like the traditional physics world and how we'll be teaching like intro physics classes, it was nice to hear those explanations. I thought they were, I don't know, that stuff's good to hear.
And I still need to interview you about Chernobyl because we're both obsessed with Chernobyl from kind of two different angles. So
I will go one day.
Yeah, I was going to say we've both vowed to go, and so we just need to figure out a way to find someone to fund us to go as a group.
I got really close, but I think I have to. I got talked to one of my old professors at Colorado State from where I did my master's about taking a group of students from my new university this coming summer, and then everything happened with COVID, and I don't think it's the right year to try to broach it and get money to do it, even though maybe by the summer it'll be okay, but like I'm asking people to put up a lot of money for like a big unknown right now, so but hopefully one day I will go and I will put lots of pictures on Twitter, I promise.
That's definitely on my list too.
Yeah. I do see we have some Damsels of Dorkington in the wings, and I don't know what's happening next in this show because I can't even like get an internet connection. Does anyone know what's going on?
We're moving on to games.
Great. While you can hear us, Kim, Dave, Sarah, and I all want to say thank you so much. All of you lovely folks for being here. Everyone on YouTube for being here. Everyone in the chat for being here. Thank you. You're all amazing. Please carry on this thing. We're just like hanging on by our fingernails with our internet. So lovely. Thank you.
I just would like to say he doesn't speak for me, but he was correct.
That's Dave. Yeah, and also just everyone, please go follow Matthew, see what he's doing, check out his book that he's crowdfunding. Please follow Lisa, she's amazing. Follow her cat, she posts a lot of pictures of her cat, which I love.
True, yeah.
And your dogs.
Yeah, I got some real sweet dogs. They look like Muppets.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it depends
Pow.
depends on their state of haircut.
That's true.
I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
their state of haircut just changes which Muppet they look like.
Yeah. But from here in New Hampshire, we're gonna sign out because we can barely hang on. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, Lisa, I almost forgot. So, like, if ever you get like radiation-induced contact dermatitis, snail mucus is amazing for that.